I'm Robert Anthony.
I'm Joelle Anthony.
This is Watson. In 2020, we felt God's call in our lives to do something incredibly radical.
In 2023, we sold our flower shop, our home, just about everything we owned, and purchased our Winnebago Flex RV.
This began our trek into the vast unknown. Our mission is to take you along, showing you things you otherwise may never be able to see.
We would be so thankful to have you follow along and become part of our adventures.
Now, let's get to today's video. Hey, how are you doing? We are so grateful that you're here. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, we're super glad that you're here. We are so grateful for every one of you that are part of this Living with Rob family as it continues to grow, and I'm just glad that you're here. Today, we're going to get into 5 things that we've learned on our 6-month anniversary of traveling on the road full-time of the Living in a Van Down by the River. We're going to give you 5 things that we've learned that we feel are going to be important to you if you're considering doing this full time, or if you've just started doing it, or if you're frustrated with a few things, you've been doing it for a little while. We think that these 5 things that we've concocted here and come up with are going to actually help direct you in your decision-making process, or help you to get a little more peace in your situation with where you're at now. So without any further ado, let's get into those 5 things right now. The first thing, item number 1, is that the vehicle that you're using to tow is going to matter. If you're going to be towing a fifth wheel or a travel trailer, or you're going to do a truck bed camper, what your vehicle can tow is critical. Now, I'm a Toyota guy. I love Toyota. I've owned 8 Toyotas. I love Toyotas. We initially, when we bought the 2108DS, the Winnebago 2108DS Flex Series camper, we had a Toyota Sequoia with the famed 4.7 liter transmission combo that Toyota is known for. They call it a million-mile engine for obvious reasons. That vehicle only had a towing capacity of about 7,500 pounds. Now, our trailer only has a weight of about 4,300 or 4,400 pounds dry and a max capacity of 5,300 pounds when it's full with cargo. That means when its water tanks are full, the propane tanks are full, and what it's capable of carrying with regard to gear. So that's not very much weight, but that was getting close to the edge as far as what I felt comfortable with towing. We took it into the mountains, and I thought, I don't know. I'm just not liking this, the way this is going to feel, and if we're going to be doing this full time, I want something more robust. So we found a Toyota Tundra with the now 5.7 liter engine in it. I bought a 2013 Toyota Tundra, and that Tundra has a towing capacity. I have the crew cab, which is the 4-door one with the shortest bed. That Tundra has a towing capacity of 10,000 pounds, or 9,990 or something, okay? Now you think, okay, that's good and that's where it ends. I'm only at max capacity. I'm almost just barely at 50%, so I could look at a much larger trailer with a much heavier weight. Not so. What you really want to pay attention to in your tow vehicle is its payload capacity if you own a truck. That is the critical element. An example would be my Tundra, while it can tow 10,000 pounds, has a payload capacity of only about 1,300 pounds. When you're figuring the payload capacity, that's everything in the truck. So I have a Lear capper on the back of mine that weighs about 200 pounds. 200 pounds comes off the top of the 1,300. Everything on top of the Lear capper weighs in at 150 pounds or so. That comes off the top. Whatever your hitch weight is, this is where it starts to get critical in what you're deciding that you want to do. Whatever your hitch weight is goes against that payload, and whatever you're carrying in the bed of the truck is going to go against that payload too. So the 2108DS, the Flex that we live in, has a hitch weight of only 400 pounds. But I've upgraded the solar. The front compartment has about a 120-pound battery in it. There are other elements that are causing that hitch to be weighed down. We're putting a solar panel on the front. That's another 25 or 30 pounds that'll be on the nose of the rig. So these are elements that you've got to look at with regard to your payload capacity of your truck, because it may be able to pull 10,000 pounds, but it's going to take some figuring to figure out, okay, what's my actual payload of the truck. So if you're looking to do this full time, based on what we've experienced, what I would encourage you to do is start looking at the domestic manufacturers, the Ford F-250, the F-350. You're starting to get up to where you've got payload capacities into the multiple thousands, like 3,500, 4,000 pounds. You're never going to have to worry about, if you have a small trailer like us and decide you want to upgrade, to then have to upgrade not only your trailer, but your tow vehicle as well. Now, what I've done on my truck, and I'll show you here, is I've added the TRD sway bar, the racing sway bar. That makes a significant difference in the towing. I added medium duty Sumo springs, which are spring assisters that keep it more stable with weight. And I recently added road assist suspension springs that are an enhancement to the springs. And these are, as you can see here, they're adjustable. They're like a coil that adjusts. Now, I'll also mention that these are going to make the towing much more robust. Doesn't really increase my towing capacity. And you still have to be careful, because if you start getting close to the towing capacity with your truck, if it's, say, a 10,000 pound and you're at 9,000 pounds because you've beeped up the rear end like what I have done, what ends up happening is you start straining your leaf springs, you start straining your frame, and you start doing all of these things that are detrimental to the overall safety long term. So the first thing is going to be the tow vehicle. That's going to be a very important consideration with regard to what you're ultimately going to end up doing. And I believe that's number one, where you should start before you even decide on your rig. All right, so right now we want to break in and we want to ask you a favor. If you're here and you appreciate what we're doing, it would be great if you could like the video, hit that like button. And then if you could subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification. When you hit the bell notification, that lets you know when we've released a post or a new video, and that would be really great. The like button helps to push the video up in the algorithm, which tells it that people like this, and it will show it to more people. If you could hit the like button, like right now, that would be great. We would appreciate it. Thanks. Let's get back to the video. All right, so Joelle, what's item number 2 on our list here?
Yes, you'll soon learn that conservation is essential. So especially, and this actually will only...
When you say conservation, do you mean like environmentalist type, greeny type thing where you're going around and you're angry that people are using the resources, so you're throwing paint on stuff?
No.
Not that?
No.
Okay, what kind of conservation do you mean?
What I mean is, and this would only apply if you are staying off-grid or boondocking, it simply means that you need to quickly develop a mindset that every ounce of water literally counts. Like, it counts, because you don't have unending amounts of water while you are staying off-grid and boondocking.
So like in our situation, our tanks are limited. The Winnebago Micro Minnie only has a 31-gallon water tank, a fresh water tank of only 31 gallons. And while they promote these as being off-grid and boondocking specific campers, which is true to a degree, it's not for long term. 31 gallons is nowhere near enough. And our holding tanks, our black tank, which is what holds our sewer, is only 25 gallons, and our gray water tank, which holds our sink water, is only 25 gallons. Those are immediate things that you need to have in your radar with regard to what it is that matters to you. You have a story that kind of demonstrates how you actually had to learn about this conservation thing from a very early time in our marriage. You want to tell them about that story?
Yeah, and just background information. I wasn't raised wealthy or rich by any means, but I did develop an attitude of being just wasteful with things. I didn't really learn the art of not wasting many items.
Did your family conserve much, or did a lot of stuff?
Not so much.
Yeah,
we just really never did.
Okay.
So that carried on over to me as an adult, which I do struggle with that a bit. And I know a lot of people do. And with that said, when I first met Rob, my son was 6 years old. We took a trip out to a zoo in Palm Beach County, and my son was thirsty and he wanted a drink. So we purchased him a bottle of, I believe it might have been Aquafina water.
Aquafina. Yep.
For like maybe $4 for a bottle.
World's most expensive bottle of water.
And it was a small bottle of water. So my son, being that he was raised by me thus far, he took a few sips and then he dumped out the water.
Dumped the water out.
Yeah.
Threw the bottle away. At least he did that. And I was looking at her like, what the heck just happened? Who are you? Well, you can't be that way if you're going to be living in an RV full time.
And of course, I know that kids
and you're
do
boondocking and dispersed camping. If you're living in an RV park, doesn't matter. Your sewers are hooked up.
Yeah.
But these are things that you'll want to take into consideration. You can't stand there and wash dishes and leave the water running when you're out off grid. It's like a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Wash, a little bit of water.
Yes, and until it becomes a habit. Yeah. And it's been nice having hookups right now because I'm actually practicing. We are not currently boondocking, but I'm actually practicing like I'm boondocking. So you have to live each day while you're living full-time in your RV of like, how can I conserve today? Well, being in an RV, living in an RV full-time, if you run out of water, it's going to be a terrible thing. And if you run out of propane, it's also going to be terrible. So you have to think about that.
To say the least. Yep.
So either way, you're going to pay.
So I'm going to take number 3.
Yes.
So number 3 here is the RV that you choose matters. So as you're researching, you have to consider between you and if you're doing it with your spouse, what your purposes are or what you're going to need. How much space do you need? Do you need time apart from each other? So in our rig is a totally open floor plan. You'll see here from this image from the Winnebago site here that our rig is an open floor plan and it doesn't have any doors. It just has a privacy curtain between the Murphy bed that comes down. So there's no privacy.
Right.
A lot of your considerations are going to be what your lifestyle is now and how much you're going to need to be separated and how much that private time is going to be required, as well as how much, if you're going to do like us and you're working on the road, does it going to provide you adequate desk space, storage space, workspace, electrical outlets, and so on and so forth. Now for us, we do not stay in RV parks. Period. We don't stay in parks, campgrounds, maybe every once in a while in a campground if it's a state park or a national forest campground. But generally speaking, we knew from the beginning that we were going to be doing off-grid and boondocking exclusively. We're not plugging in. We're not going into a park. We don't need our air conditioning. We follow the weather and all that. So our rig that we looked for was definitely more geared toward doing the off-grid experience. So we've got Goodyear Wrangler Duratrack tires. We have a Dexter torsion axle on this. Our camper sits up about 10 inches higher off of the ground than what a regular standard camper would. We're going places with this because we're smaller. We're only 20 feet, 22 feet from tip to tail. So we're going places with our Tundra in this that most fifth wheels, if they tried to attempt it, for example, would never be able to get to. Certainly some Class A's and Class C's are not going to make it to where we're going to be able to take this rig. A lot of what you're looking for in your rig needs to be kind of sifted through and filtered through the lens of where do we want to go. A lot of the people that we kind of look at on YouTube, they'll have fifth wheels and they have humongous Class A's that they travel in, but they're also using like 1,000 trails and they stay at these timeshare type places around the country for RVs, and they're using RV resorts and campgrounds. We don't do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, a number of the full-timers that we've met are really pulling around a small house. Some of these fifth wheels are like 500 square feet. They're just enormous. And that's the way they're choosing to do it. But that's a lot to maintain. Also, you need, going back to the tow vehicle, a much bigger truck. So the type of rig that you have and how it's outfitted based on your needs. If you're going to be in a park exclusively, doesn't matter what your gray tank is. It doesn't matter what your black tank is. It doesn't matter what your freshwater tank is because you're hooked up to sewer, you're hooked up to fresh water, and you're hooked up to electricity. So nothing matters as it relates to that. These are all factors that you're going to want to take into consideration as you're trying to decide what direction that you're going to go with regard to your RV. So those are my thoughts on that. So Joelle, what's the fourth thing? The community. I think that's something you should address.
Yeah, what I found is the community out here has been amazing. We have met so many great people that have actually become fast friends that we stay in contact with on a regular basis. That has been helpful to us if we've have certain questions that they are more skilled and knowledgeable in. We reach out to them as well as them reaching out to us. So that has been fantastic. I think there is this misconception that people that live full-time on the road are weirdos, to be honest with you. They're like, you know, vagabonds living in a van down by a river, but that is far from the truth. We have found people that are definitely of like-minded that we've been able to click with, that have that same sense of adventure that we both have and just want to live life to the fullest by being out here exploring what's out here. There's so much in America to see, and so it's been cool to connect with people that way.
So what's the age group that you've seen out here floating around?
I would say like mid-20s to like upper 70s.
Yeah. And retired, not retired, working on the road, not working on the road, taking unemployment, taking food stamps. What have you seen?
Combination of all. I'm not sure if I have seen
nobody that's on welfare taking food stamps.
I was going to say, I haven't been in a conversation with anyone that has said that. I think it is mostly retired people. Some people that just are working remotely that just were tired of the hustle and bustle of just living in the city or wherever, that they just wanted to be on the road and found that they can actually work and also be on the road.
See, I haven't seen it where it's heavily weighted toward all these people are retired.
Right.
I'd say it's about 50%.
Yeah.
So a majority, I would say more of the people that we've met than not are actually working on the road.
Yes.
And the common thread that I've seen as it relates to those people is they got in the mindset that we did. I'm sick of having all this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see this country before I get too old and can't travel around and hike anymore. And I'm sick of what society is pressuring me to believe I need to have. A secure job. We need work because we have to eat, obviously, but a secure job to make sure that I have a 401k or a pension so that when I'm 70 or 65 years old, I can start drawing Social Security and retire. That is not what I've seen. What I've seen has been people like us who are like, I'm fed up with all that. You know what matters to me? What God has called me to do, seeing what this great country has to offer, and enjoying the living crap out of my family and my kids.
Right.
Priorities. The priorities have really been inverted. And most of these people have taken huge risks. And the thing that has struck me is the length of time. We're like the only ones that haven't been doing it for a year that we've met.
Yeah.
Some of the people that we've met have been doing it for one person, 13 years.
Yeah. It's crazy.
13 years out here. And that's not the extreme. It's like 7, 8, 9 years. So I think that's something that has been, I think that's something that's been really an eye-opening experience. In conclusion, number 5 is everything takes longer. And what I mean when I say that we've learned that everything takes longer, when you're not pulling a trailer, or you're not driving a humongous Class A, or you're not, you got a big rig that you're trying to drive around, you can get from point A to point B. And, I used to be able to drive 500-600 miles a day, no problem. Send me on my way to Michigan in the Sequoia, or in the Solara, or in the Tundra, 2 days, 600 miles each day, no problem. When you're pulling a trailer, everything's slower. You're driving slower, you're more stressed. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So for me personally, one of the things that I found was almost immediately as we started doing this, it was like, okay, this driving 400 or 500 miles a day, pulling this trailer, getting up early and everything, and having to stop for fuel multiple times, and it's checking the trailer bearings constantly and everything else. We limit ourselves now to, at the most, we're going to travel is 250 miles in a day. That's the most. And we are slowing down to get to where we want to go because everything moves so much slower.
Right, it does.
The way that you're having to drive and the way that you're having to deal with your trailer, the constant stress of, is everything okay? Because in our situation, we've added 2 more axles or 4 more tires because we have a tandem axle trailer. These are all things that must be considered. You're not going to be living the fast life where you're driving from point A to point B. And if you do that, after a while, you're going to get tired of it. But it also affects the way that you're able to interact with your family. And what I mean when I say that, we're missing out on something that my daughter has going on because they didn't think to consult with us. Not that they have to ask our permission, but right now we're on the Pacific coast near the Pacific Ocean, and they're all the way over on the Atlantic Ocean, and they're having an event, and they just thought, well, because we travel, we can just drop everything we're doing and come to the event. It's not that easy. And there are specific times that we're not going to be driving across the country, and that would be like right now, the middle of February, end of February, getting into March, which is winter/spring. Freezing rain is a very prevalent issue in the middle of the country. It's very unsafe. It's just not ideal. We can't just pick up and take off. Plus, we travel with the dog. That's a little bonus thing, is if you're traveling with animals, you really want to think hard about how that's going to look, because you're not going to be able to do hikes, you're not going to be able to take them places, and you're not going to be able to travel as easily as you could if you did want to fly somewhere, unless you're comfortable boarding your dog, which we are not. So if you have a Sprinter van, it's great. You just flip everything up and start driving. But if you've got a big rig or you've got a trailer, and you've got to get everything packed down, it's, an hour and a half in the morning to get hitched up. Going to be 5 or 6 hours to get to where you're going, and then it's going to be another hour to get really camp set up. So everything takes longer. That is something you really need to be mindful of as you're doing it. You do not want to be the kind of person that needs to be in a hurry to get from point A to point B if you're doing this full time.
Definitely got to slow down.
Yep.
Hey, I was thinking, I want to add a number 6, sort of like a bonus item.
All right, what is it?
I was thinking about this. It's really important to be okay with being sad. primarily talking from a female's perspective here. And what I mean by that, it's okay to miss your family and friends. That's going to happen. There's plenty of times in this past couple of months that living on the road that I have these moments where I'll have flashbacks back to my house, and I'll just start getting really sad because I miss my son or my kids or my mom. That's okay. It's okay to get sad and cry a little. That's going to happen. And especially if you are family orientated, this lifestyle can be really difficult for you. So it's okay to be sad and just have these moments of, gosh, I want to see my family or friends, but just be mindful of that. Like Rob mentioned before, plan that out. You want to make sure that you are seeing your family or friends. So just plan it out. It doesn't have to be on Christmas Day or, their birthday. It could be various times throughout the year.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, as we're getting ready to close this out, piggybacking off what she said, it's actually a lot easier for them to come visit you.
Yes, it is.
Than for you to go visit them. And that's okay to expect that.
Right.
If it works out, great. And if it doesn't, if you want to travel to them, a lot of the people that we've met, they're going to see their kids and their grandkids. I honor that, and I would do the same thing. And I agree with that. But just keep in mind that you're pulling around your house. So
yeah.
It is a lot easier for them to fly somewhere, pick them up, and spend a few days with you if your unit's big enough, or you have the means by which they can stay with you, like we do. For them to come and visit you. Plus, they're getting out and having a vacation and seeing things that they might otherwise not see.
True.
So, those are good tips. Those are good tips with the bonus. So, hey, we're grateful that you're here, and I'm glad that you're here. We hope that you'll subscribe and you'll join the family. And if you already have, we're really grateful for you. And I guess until the next time.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Wait, no,
Take it easy.
Wait, we have
Rob
to do
out.
that again.
No, we're not doing it again. We're not doing everything. You've said that stupid so many times. I just can't even.
Well, now we got.
Well, like when you said orientated, I'm leaving orientated in there. I'm not taking.
No, don't leave orientated.
I am, because it's oriented, and you say orientated every time you say it.
Orientated.
No, it's oriented. Oriented. It's
family.
not orientated.
Oh wait, no, hell no. We have to cut that again.
No.
I can't say family oriented.
You said it, but you
family
always,
orientated.
But you always say. See, you just said orientated again.
Oh my gosh.
I'm leaving it.
People are going to be like, I think she needs to check in. I think she needs to go back to school. I said you just now. I said oriented.
Ain't no school
orientation. Wait.
Orientation? We're not going to see school.
You can't leave that in here.
See ya.
Oh, wait a minute. Rob, you can't leave this.